6 warning signs on a TV spec sheet tell you that the manufacturer is hiding something. These are not casual concerns. These are the specific markers that distinguish a TV designed for genuine performance from a TV designed to look impressive on the shelf while delivering disappointment in your living room. The industry knows these red flags exist. The salespeople know. The reviewers who have been working in this industry for decades know. Most consumers have no idea. Today I am decoding all 6 red flags, exactly how to spot them on any TV box or product page, and exactly what they reveal about the TV that the marketing is trying to hide. By the end of this video, you will be able to walk into any electronics store and identify the TVs to avoid within 30 seconds of looking at the spec sheet. Subscribe because I decode this industry every week. Drop a comment with any TV you are currently considering. I will check it against the red flags and tell you whether to walk away. Let us decode this. Red flag number 1 is the most common deception in the industry. Look for a TV that lists motion rate, true motion, motion flow, clear motion, or similar terms but does not separately list a native refresh rate. When a manufacturer has a 120 Hz or higher native refresh rate, they list it explicitly. When they only have a 60 Hz native panel, they hide that fact behind effective rate marketing. The motion rate 240 on the box represents software-enhanced motion processing on a 60 Hz panel. The native refresh rate is 60 Hz, which is the limiting factor for actual motion performance. Why does this matter? A 60 Hz native panel cannot deliver smooth motion for fast content like sports or gaming. The motion smoothing technology cannot compensate for the physical limitation of the panel. Console gaming features that require 120 Hz support, including PlayStation 5 4K at 120 frames per second and Xbox Series X 4K at 120 frames per second, will not work properly on a 60 Hz native panel, regardless of what motion rate the marketing claims. If a TV spec sheet does not specifically state a native refresh rate of 120 Hz or higher, assume the panel is 60 Hz native. Search for independent reviews to confirm. If the panel is 60 Hz native and you watch sports or play games, this TV is not for you. Move on. Red flag number 2 is HDR support without specifically including Dolby Vision. A TV that says HDR or HDR10 but does not say Dolby Vision is missing the most important HDR format on the market. Dolby Vision is supported by Netflix, Disney+, Apple TV+, Paramount+, Amazon Prime Video, and essentially every major streaming service. The majority of premium content on these platforms is mastered in Dolby Vision. The picture quality difference between Dolby Vision and basic HDR10 is significant. Dynamic metadata, scene-by-scene optimization, and superior tone mapping make Dolby Vision the format that content creators prefer and consumers benefit from. Samsung is the only major brand that refuses to support Dolby Vision. Their TVs only support HDR10 and Samsung's own HDR10 Plus format, which has very limited content. If you are buying a Samsung's TV, you accept this limitation. If you are buying any other brand, confirm Dolby Vision support before purchasing. If a TV from any non-Samsung brand does not list Dolby Vision, that is a red flag indicating a budget tier model that may lack additional features as well. Premium TVs from LG, Sony, TCL, Hisense, and Vizio all support Dolby Vision. Budget models from these brands sometimes omit it. The omission is a marker of a budget model regardless of other specifications. Red flag number 3 is peak brightness below 600 nits for any TV claiming HDR capability. HDR requires brightness to deliver its full effect. Bright highlights are part of the HDR experience. Sun glints, explosions, neon signs, and other bright elements need to be genuinely bright on screen to create the impact they are designed for. A TV that cannot produce sufficient brightness cannot deliver real HDR regardless of what its spec sheet claims. Any budget TVs marketed as HDR capable have peak brightness of 300 to 500 nits. This is enough to technically receive and process HDR signals, but is not enough to display HDR content as intended. The result is what is commonly called fake HDR. The TV labels itself as HDR capable, but the picture you see is essentially standard dynamic range with the HDR processing applied to it. The transformation from SDR to real HDR that you expect from premium TVs does not happen. For premium HDR experience, look for 1000 nits or higher peak brightness. For acceptable HDR, 600 to 800 nits is the minimum. Below 600 nits, the HDR marketing is essentially fictional. The spec might be listed, but the experience does not match the expectation. Independent measurements from RTings and HDTV test reveal which TVs actually deliver their claimed brightness and which fall short. Always verify brightness claims with independent reviews before purchasing. Red flag number 4 applies specifically to LED TVs, including the more expensive mini LED variants. Local dimming is the feature that allows different areas of the screen to be illuminated at different brightness levels. This is essential for delivering meaningful contrast on LED backlit panels. A TV without local dimming has a single uniform backlight that illuminates the entire panel equally. Dark scenes appear gray instead of black because the backlight cannot dim selectively. The result is poor contrast, washed-out blacks, and disappointing HDR performance. Local dimming comes in different implementations. Full-array local dimming with hundreds or thousands of zones delivers excellent contrast and HDR performance. Edge-lit local dimming with limited zones delivers some improvement, but with notable limitations, including light bleed and uneven illumination. No local dimming delivers no contrast benefit beyond the basic panel capability. A TV without explicit mention of local dimming probably does not have it. If the spec sheet does not mention local dimming, full array, fayouts, or similar terms, assume the TV uses edge-lit illumination at best or no local dimming at worst. For LED TVs above the entry level, full array local dimming with at least 100 zones is the minimum acceptable specification. Below this, you are buying a TV that cannot deliver real HDR contrast regardless of other features. Halfway through, and these red flags are easy to spot once you know them. Subscribe because I keep exposing this kind of stuff. Let me show you the rest. Red flag number 5 is HDMI ports labeled as HDMI 2.0 instead of HDMI 2.1. HDMI 2.1 is the current standard for premium TV connectivity. It enables 4K at 120 Hz, variable refresh, automatic low latency mode, and other features that benefit modern gaming consoles and high-end media sources. HDMI 2.0 caps the bandwidth at lower levels that cannot support these features. A TV with only HDMI 2.0 ports cannot deliver 4K at 120 frames per second from a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. The gaming console will downgrade to 4K at 60 frames per second or 1080p at 120 frames per second. The premium gaming features that justified buying the console will not work. Variable refresh rate, which reduces screen tearing and judder in fast-paced games, requires HDMI 2.1. Auto low latency mode, which optimizes display latency for gaming, requires HDMI 2.1. eARC, which enables advanced audio formats including Dolby Atmos through HDMI, requires HDMI 2.1 for full bandwidth. Premium TVs from 2022 onward should have HDMI 2.1 on at least 2 ports, ideally 4. If a TV spec sheet only mentions HDMI 2.0, that is a clear indicator of an older or budget tier model. The HDMI standard difference is a quick way to identify TVs that are being marketed at premium prices but with outdated connectivity. Red flag number 6 is a TV that mentions a processor but does not specify which generation or model. Premium TV brands use sophisticated processors that significantly impact picture quality. Sony's XR processor, Samsung's AI Quantum processor, LG's Alpha processor. These processors handle upscaling, motion handling, color processing, and HDR tone mapping. The specific generation matters because each new generation typically delivers meaningful improvements. Sony's XR processor is current. Older Sony TVs use the X1 processor, which is significantly less capable. Samsung's AI Quantum processor 4K is current. Their older processors are less sophisticated. LG's Alpha 11 is current. Older Alpha 9 and Alpha 7 generations are less capable. A TV that mentions a processor without specifying the generation is hiding the fact that it uses an older, less capable version. The premium picture processing features that distinguish current flagship TVs from older models may not be present. Budget TVs from premium brands often use processors that are several generations behind the flagship lineup, but the marketing material avoids identifying which generation. This makes consumers think they are buying current technology when they are actually buying older hardware repackaged. Always look for the specific processor name and generation. If the spec sheet only says smart processor or AI processor without further detail, the TV is using an older or budget tier processor. Here is how to apply these red flags in practice. Before you walk into any store or click any purchase button, find the complete spec sheet for the TV you are considering. The manufacturer website usually has the most detailed information, though it can be buried in technical specifications submenus. Independent review sites like Arting's HD TV Test and Home Theater publish comprehensive measurements that confirm what is real and what is marketing. Check for each of the 6 red flags. Native refresh rate of at least 120 Hz if you watch sports or play console games. Dolby Vision support unless you are specifically buying Samsung. Peak brightness of at least 600 nits, preferably 1000 nits or higher. Local dimming on any LED backlit TV, ideally full array with at least 100 zones. HDMI 2.1 on at least 2 ports for gaming consoles and current media sources. Current generation processor identified by specific name and generation number. A TV that hits all 6 criteria is at least a competent purchase. A TV that fails on 2 or more criteria should be avoided regardless of how impressive the marketing makes it look. The marketing is designed to obscure the limitations. The spec sheet, when you know what to look for, reveals the truth. 6 red flags. Every one of them is hidden in plain sight on the spec sheets that consumers walk past without understanding. Now you know what to look for. The next time you are in a TV section, you can identify the actual quality of any TV within 30 seconds of looking at the specifications. If this saved you from a bad purchase, subscribe and share this. Drop a comment with a TV you were considering, and I will tell you whether it passes or fails. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.